Hi everyone, in this week's Dispatch video we are discussing how a business might respond where two colleagues disclose that they have entered into a personal relationship. The first question is whether or not a business can have a policy which provides for dismissal in these circumstances, and in the vast majority of cases the answer is no. A business would generally be expected to put control measures in place to mitigate any risk arising from a personal relationship. There may be very limited circumstances where there is a risk to confidentiality or a huge conflict of interest which might justify termination, but that would be on the grounds of some other substantial reason and would be incredibly fact specific. Instead, the primary advice is for the business to have a policy in place which surrounds personal relationships at work. The first advantage being that it would then compel employees to notify the business in the event that colleagues had formed a relationship. If they failed to do so, then that could give grounds for disciplinary action, but again, dismissal might be a very extreme reaction in the circumstances. The policy might address a number of concerns around personal relationships. There could be a lack of transparency in workplace matters. As we said, there could be a risk to confidential information and risk of a conflict of interest arising. There could be actual or perceived bias from employees within a particular team, particularly if you have a manager and subordinate in a personal relationship. Could be embarrassment for staff, depending on how the individuals actually conduct themselves physically in the workplace. There could be an adverse reaction and detriment on team morale and dynamics. And we should also consider the impact in the event of a breakdown of that relationship. One thing I suggest in these circumstances is undertaking a risk assessment. So that would have a number of questions to be answered down one side, how serious that is perhaps in the middle, and control measures or action points that could be put in place as a result. So for example, we'd firstly look at whether there is a supervisory or managerial responsibility from one party to the relationship to the other. Is that individual responsible for progression, development or promotion directly or indirectly? If so, the control measures may be a second check or some sort of auditing to ensure that any promotion or advancement exercise is fair and transparent. Do the employees work in the same location? Is there any flexibility in terms of that? Do they work in the same team? And again, is there any flexibility? If it would minimise risk and it's not a difficult exercise to do, one employee could be moved from one department to another, one location to another, possibly even line manager responsibility if that's going to be easily achieved. Is there a potential for a conflict of interest? If so, again, can any control measures be put in place? Have concerns been raised by any other employees? So even after at the point of the relationship being disclosed, some colleagues may have been aware of it before disclosure. Are there any warning signs that employees have already flagged that we might need to discuss and again overcome with some action points or control measures? And crucially, what would happen in the event of the relationship breaking down? So whilst we might assess that certain action points are not necessary at this stage, what damage could be done or what could the adverse impact be if the relationship broke down? And the benefit of the risk assessment is that it's conducted on an individual basis, so it's very fact specific, and what suits the business in one circumstance might not be appropriate for another relationship that arises in the business. That policy and that risk assessment needs to be clearly communicated to employees so that they are aware of the duty to disclose. There is some controversy potentially over what amounts to a relationship. I think in the very early days it'd be easy to forgive employees for not making that disclosure, but certainly if it does become more serious, the business would be expecting that open dialogue with staff so that the risk assessment can be prepared and any action points communicated as a result. If you do need any further help on this area or anything employment law generally, please do get in touch. Visit the website chadwicklawrence.co.uk or email employmenthub@chadlaw.co.uk. Thank you.